Okay, first, you must become aware that there is something that you have to become aware of. You have to realize that there is something going on in your mind, some type of trickster energy is messing with your perception. Once you get there, then we can start. Um, if you're not there, then just get there. Okay, so uh, if you look out into the world and notice that there is some type of hypnosis going on that is preventing everyone from getting to the truth. For if we all got to the truth, we would be able to put an end to this fucked up situation we have going on Earth. And it's been fucked up for a really long time. Our history has never been good. It's really fucked. And it's not supposed to be like this. If it's just what we're told is to keep us as good slaves, that we came here to learn. But why would you come here? Why would there have to be such hell for everyone to learn? Because it's been pure hell for a lot of beings on this earth for a really long time. It That's just so fucked up to think that kids would have to be sex trafficked and that tortured and abused and entire cultures be annihilated and have there be genocide and all of the shitty stuff that's been happening for so long, all just so that we can learn. So once we get that notion out of the way, clear that out. What are we really doing here? Why is it so fucked up? And why is it that people struggle so hard to get to the truth? And so that's where we start to become aware that there is something that is preventing us from fully seeing this, from recognizing a pattern. Um, So install that pattern recognition software. Ask your soul, hey, what is in the way of me being able to see this? I choose and am demanding that I begin to perceive these truths. And this is that autonomy you have to start calling forth in yourself. Really start getting demanding with your own soul, your perception generator. You know, I force myself to see things like, yo, if there is something that needs to be seen, I am forcing myself to see it. I am forcing it to come to the surface so that I can see it. And so you start to become aware of this, start to get your autonomy, and then you can really begin working on this. And that is freeing yourself of what's causing so many issues. We're not meant to have all these issues, personality defects, whatever you want to call them. There is another state of consciousness that exists, and we can get to a point to where we are using more of our mind. Right now, we are using such a small fraction. We can get to a place to where we can see the energy around us. We can start working with it, and that's where we have our power. Is realizing that we are energetic beings, and that this energy can be brought forth and imbued into physical objects. So all the physical objects around us can be imbued with spiritual energy. You could call it spiritual or just energy. Uh, and so it's very important that we get to this realization. So we are the operator animating our environment. And so uh, first we become aware that this is happening already. And we start to clear our space of any objects that could have been animated with dysbiotic entities. I use dysbiotic because, we're all very familiar with symbiotic. It's a system that's working with its own environment and a system that can generate its own energy. So dysbiotic is a system that cannot generate its own energy anymore, and it's having to feed off its environment, and it's not giving anything back. And so through living and thinking a certain way is what creates this dysbiosis. And so these entities have fallen into entropy, and they can't they can't create their own energy anymore. And so they have to feed on us. And these entities are in other realms. They do not incarnate. Uh, and they have created a system here on Earth that's very tricky. and it has been trapping soul family angels for a long time and tricking them. And it's been, if you look at the history of humans, it is very parasitic. Uh, so, anyways, these entities they can work through um, physical parasites. I don't know if you've looked into Morgellons, but Morgellons is a physical parasite that actually feeds on energy. And so these little clear specks can be a house for these entities. That's one way that they can possess humans is through parasites because these entities have to be able to possess something in the physical realm in order to be able to affect you. And so that's why they work so hard to be able to surround you with dysbiotic things, like even this dwelling space is dysbiotic by its shape and color and the way it's made. It's not working with its environment. Um, anyway, so all these different objects can be imbued or animated with these, different spirits and entities. And then there's um, how they, and that's possession, right? And so there's other ways that these entities can be feeding off you, other than parasites, and that is through trauma, through experiences in life that created an energy that you were never able to process. And that energy got stored in the body somewhere and it creates knots. It creates tension that does not go away. And in this tension is dysbiotic and it can be attached to the entity. So, say you have someone who traumatized you, there was an entity possessing that human who traumatized you, and they placed a program of energy in your body that got stored somewhere. And now that entity can feed on you from that traumatic experience, which you could call an energetic program. It's an energy that's been programmed, and so that program can be stored in the body, and then this entity can trigger it from a distance and feed off of it whenever it pleases. And it almost creates a false identity. You could call it the ego, but it's creates this programmed identity that's not who you really are. And so a lot of the spiritual people have become aware of this false identity and they work at like, clearing out the false identity. That one's really common to hear about. But it is something very important that we have to do is start to clear away the parts that are just done, you know, on a different resonance than our soul. Because our soul is so powerful and beautiful in every way and magnificent. And so we have to get to that magnificence and see that that is who we truly are. We are all very magnificent. We are all omnipresent. We are all singing this beautiful song woven through the universe. And so we have to get back to that state. Like, how do we remember that? So we start clearing away the false identity by severing these chains. The only way that I've found to get rid of these knots is to sever the chain, is to sever the attachment. And that's where it starts to get very interesting. There can be entities that show up. Uh, in my mind's eye, I can see the chains and I can kind of see an entity, like a silhouette of light, but I can feel it. I can feel it because it's a heavy weight of fear that comes into the room and it tries to overpower you with fear. And it's very intense. And so, um, but I have been able to tune my body in enough to where my fascia is really awake. So I think everyone should really study the fascia. It's the organ of form, it's holding all of your cells together and it's an extension of the heart, and it is a house of the soul. And so the fascia is a house of the soul, and you tune that on, and uh, it'll move your body differently than what your mind tries to move it as. And so if you can turn off the mind and awaken this fascia, you start doing these really incredible moves and stretches in life where your body's finally aware of everything that needs to be corrected. But when this is turned on and your fascia is awake and these uh, dysbiotic entities, demons, whatever you want to call them, show up, you can direct your weapons towards them just with your eyes closed. Like your body will just follow it and knows exactly where it is. You just need to know. Uh, you just need to know how to turn the mind off, how to find silence. So the ritual, um, you just have to know that these things can show up and be ready to deal with that. Uh, at first, I would just say, have my little sayings, and that would get rid of them. But it got to the point where I did need to really dive deep into how to protect myself spiritually and how to start working with the spiritual realms. There's the energetic, there's this, I just call it spiritual, there's just the physical and then there's like an energetic realm. This energetic realm is the realm of the spirits. Um, spiritual, it's just not physical. Those are the two that I see. That's how I describe it. Everyone describes it differently. So first, you have to learn how to animate your environment. You just have to become aware that you are animating your environment. And so you have all of these tools in your spiritual realm, in your room, your heart, your room. You have a room of your soul and where you've done all this work and you have all these tools. And so you are invoking a portal to bring these tools into the physical realm to animate specific objects. And so this is why like tarot cards work so well, is because they've been imbued with different symbols to animate spirits into the cards, to invoke spirits, to invoke entities. The only tarot deck I ever suggest working with is the Spirit Keeper's Tarot. Benabel Lynn is an angel, literally, and a genius for creating these cards. But it's the Spirit Keeper's Tarot, and she wanted to create the most powerful occult technology, and she did. And so this is the only deck I would ever suggest using for this ritual, but it can help you to become aware of certain things, to call in certain presences for protection. Really powerful, powerful, powerful. She's a genius. So you become aware of animation. You start animating your objects. The objects I've animated in my room, my soul has very powerful swords, knives, daggers. And so I have the selenite dagger, which I have invoked a portal for my spiritual sword of truth to come in to this physical plane and animate this physical tool. And I've put a lot of mental power into doing this. And so I'm always, every time I use it, I am animating more of my power into the selenite knife. And this is what I use for severing chains. And so that's important. You need to have something to sever the chain. And you need to put a lot of energy into it and time into really seeing in your mind's eye, seeing the energy go into these objects. And also you got to get really good at invoking portals. That's another thing, which you're just doing through awareness and knowledge of energy. And I think that's kind of a journey you have to go on yourself. So this is my shield of faith, which I have invoked a portal from the spiritual realm so that my shield of faith can come into this physical plane and animate this physical tool. This is a copper quartz device This is a powerful device with no moving parts. Very, very powerful. And it's all up to the operator for how powerful these things are. And so this is my shield of faith, which I always have on me. Always. I also use it for direction, for guidance, for many, many, many things. Connecting to guides. I always have it with me when I'm doing any type of my tarot work. And then I have my quartz crystal, double terminated. Um, I've invoked a portal for my eye of truth to come into this physical plane and animate this physical tool. Eye of truth, shield of faith, sword of justice. I said sword of truth. That's my sword of justice. This is my eye of truth, and this is my shield of faith. And these three tools are what I'm using to sever chains. And then if an entity shows up, I have a ritual for uh, siphoning its power and using it against it, and then asking Anubis to send it to hell. So, and that's another topic I'll get into is the hells. That's a big one, but it's very important that we start to become aware that these dysbiotic entities really need to be sent to hell and that they can leave. Everyone will be forgiven. That's super important. Once they choose symbiosis and fulfill their punishment, then they can leave. So that's a big one. So there's a knot. So for me, I turn off my mind and my body just starts finding the knots. It just starts doing it. And I'll close my eyes, I'll put a blindfold on, and it'll just start doing this, pull it out, sever, pull it out, sever, pull it out, sever. By the will of heaven and the power of my command, I sever this chain. And I just do that for a while. And then, let's see. Okay, so the eye of truth finds these chains. The shield, the eye of truth is finding the chains, finding the dysbiosis in there and pulling it out, and then burning out resonance of that. The shield is building a very strong shield, protecting that from that resonance coming back, or any resonance that is similar, repelling it away. And so that's what I'm doing as I do this. I've put a lot of energy and thought into that. So as I do this, I'm doing that. Bam, severing the chain. Boom, bam, severing the chain. Cha, cha, cha. And then you just keep doing it until you're exhausted and you're done. And then the next day, you will notice yourself a little bit triggered. You do have to really work through these patterns. And that is the challenging part. So you want to make sure that you don't do too much, because you can really do too much. The next day, you're just like all of a sudden working through all these old patterns and behaviors that you had already felt like you had worked through. It's like, oh shit, I got to work through all this again. So know your limits. That's a really big, important one. But then when an entity shows up, there is this card that taught me a lot, which is how to siphon the energy they are using against you. You siphon their power, you use it against them to sever their access to energy, and one they can't leave. So it's just like my tiny little selenite thing, and this is going to sever their access to power. And then Anubis, you invoke a portal for Anubis to come through. You ask Anubis to force this dysbiotic entity into hell for conspictio, describo, meteor, conjectura, and predictio. This is the judgment that they have to go through. So let's see if I can find the card. Aha! So this is the card. See, that shield right there is what you see, and you can start seeing this in your mind's eye as well when you work with astral stuff. But this is super important to start seeing the shield in your mind's eye and to start really working with it for protection, so that when you do feel attacks coming on, you can start to siphon their power and use it against them. So that's what I do. I'm going to keep doing it until I am free, until I have more access to my power. I would love it if anyone can hear these words, if they can reach out to me. It's going to be much more powerful if we have a group together doing this. Um, and I would also love to just be able to find some soul family who can understand what I'm saying. Uh, we need to start waking up. We have a very important mission. What's been going on this earth is extremely fucked up, and it's been fucked up for a long time. And it's creating a disharmony in the whole universe because we are all omnipresent. We do all come from an element virtue, and we are all woven throughout the universe. And so the fact that soul family has been trapped here, has been programmed to be here, they were programmed to leave heaven. And because of this, it's created a major disharmony in the universe. And so we came here to correct this so that we can free our family. Otherwise, like if we don't do this, the Mayan prophecy will happen. And, a lot of fucking beings will just go to hell, some of them for eternity. So the goal is to uh, bring this truth forth into this realm so that everyone can be forgiven. Um, that's what a lot of us are doing. So the goal is to get everyone forgiven so that we don't have to go through this huge destruction of this universe where I don't know if you've heard the Thoth prophecy of how, the universe will stop supporting the planets and they will fall. That's like a real thing. Like there would be a fall. And so we're preventing this. We have a very, 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 very important mission. And so we have to start waking up and finding each other so that we can figure out exactly what it is we do because we all have a different piece to this puzzle. So, for the love of God, I hope someone can hear this. Please, there has to be someone who can hear me. Uh, my name is Eva. That is my soul name, as far as I know. uh, Eva, I am an angel of faith, justice, and truth. That is what I bring into this realm. That is my mission. That is my duty. And I will work my fucking ass off to do it. And I have been. So thank you, family, and good luck. Please reach out to me. You will need help, and I can help you. I would love to be able to do this for people who are awake, who can handle it, because it's not easy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. May we find truth and set ourselves free.